We're recording. And we're live. Welcome back to everybody's favorite Sunday morning political talk show, the RINO Podcast. Good morning. It's fucking freezing out. I'm so sick of it. This is the part where I get very, very tired of the cold
weather. And it was
weather.
so nice on Thursday, even though it was a little cloudy. It was so warm. It's supposed to be warm tomorrow.
It should be warm. Yeah, it'll be better this week. Oh man, it's like, I don't know. We need a new phrase of like the dog days of winter, where it's just like you know, when St. Patrick's Day hits, it's like there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. You know, like you can feel the you know, everything starting to melt and things will be blooming soon and becoming in season. But this just sucks. And
yeah.
You know, we didn't go down to CPAC this year, and I kind of wanted to because it actually coincides with school vacation week. It might have been a decent trip to head down to Orlando to go to CPAC, but head on over to patreon.com/RINOPod, join for only $1 a month, where we cover a lot of stuff on the right. What's going on the right now is very interesting. Very interesting.
It is.
We're having battles. Like it's. You know, where does Candace Owens fit into the, you know, with David French versus the populism and Tucker and, like, you know, kind of not thinking Russia's movement is a big deal and all this stuff that's like fascinating. They're just not getting on the left. It's just boring. It's one.
And I don't find myself on either side's team there. No. Like, I don't want to be like, I'm not on your team, but like, I don't find myself agreeing with either of them.
No, we're normals.
Yeah, that's right.
We are the normals. Like that's we go.
Team.
Like, yeah, both are wrong. One's worse than the other, but we sort of view it differently here because Canada's right next to us. But you know, just like
is one worse than the other? I mean, yelling at Christians every Sunday seems pretty bad.
Pretty bad. Well, yeah, but there's a reasoning behind that because he always punches right. Right, so Candace Owens always punches left, but does so often, not always, in an absurd manner, thus negating any prominence or seriousness to be considered. So,
and David French is just like personal grievance politics, all the time, is right, and just like yells at Christians every Sunday.
Yeah.
But both were wrong on this instant. We discussed it in the closed episode, but they were just both wrong. Yeah,
go over to Patreon, join, sign up. You will not be disappointed. It's a great topic to get into if you're on the right, or even if you're on the left and you want to know what the other side is thinking. I mean, the left is boring. It's predictable. We know what they're going to do. And speaking of which, I wish I had some bells or whistles, Caitlin. We won. Like, we won.
We did win.
We won.
We did win. And it was funny that it took an Instagram live feed for Michelle Wu to realize that she's not as liked as she thought she was.
Yeah.
It's
not fringe people protesting at her house. It's everybody who's tired of it. Everybody's tired of it.
You have to, like, there's people who literally can't even go to like Celtics games. Yeah. And then everybody who was vaccinated got Omicron. So like, what's the point of a vaccine passport instead of just promoting vaccines for the idea of, risk control, right? Like, right. I get that in some sort of sense, but mandating it with a vaccine passport in order to limit moving around just doesn't work.
Of course. Because that makes sense. Because it's like this is what it came down to for a lot of the politicians, and for some it came to more things. They had to show that they were visibly doing something, that they were not letting this slide, right? If they're on the left, if they're a liberal progressive, that the government was involved in taking charge. So how do you do that, right? Well, you can't force people to get the jab. You can try to say it's for their health, and in all likelihood it is. But what can you do? Okay, well, all right, we can't force you to get the vaccine, but you know what we can force you to do? Like, if you want to walk, if you want to eat, or if you want to work, just eating and working, you're going to need to show this ID that says you're okay and you've got a QR code so we can digitally track you. Well, that's off-putting for a large percentage of Americans. Maybe not Canadians, but definitely Americans.
Well, maybe Canadians.
I don't know. I think the Canadian protests, if you look at polling in Canada, they're actually not that popular. They're Canadians. They don't believe everything we believe. They don't have a Bill of Rights. They don't have a constitution.
Well, they're very British in that way, right? Right. So the British are very much like that. So like they think that when a government hands down that, it's like a popular decree because they have a popular form of government a lot of the time. But even though Trudeau didn't win as many districts as he did, he still became prime minister.
Yeah.
And so the Canadians are very much like the British like that.
So, but we are not, and we don't take kindly to things that impinge upon our freedom. And Michelle Wu, just being a progressive, this is the thing about progressives. They don't get it. They don't get what America is. That there is a foundation of inalienable rights that we are taught and we are educated and we grow up in an environment of freedom. And to say the things she said through the course of the first few weeks of her administration, where it's just like, well, your freedoms don't trump the risk to other people of the collective. And it's just, no, wrong. They do.
And she said that our country wasn't founded on
right.
It's
literally the opposite, right?
I mean,
yeah,
it's just so. What a strange human being. I just don't understand her. I think it's a very Boston way of thinking. If you went to like these elite schools in Boston, you're surrounded by it, so you repeat it and you find arguments for this. And once you gain power, like she's gained power. She makes these statements to make it seem like she's strong and in control. And I think that that's just silly pettiness.
So, yes. But to say, to circle back to what I was saying, Jen Psaki, circle back. If I circle back to what I was saying, but they have to show like they're doing something. Vaccines do work. The hospitalization rate declined dramatically because of vaccines. It does work in that sense.
Yes.
But a mandate and a passport, no, it doesn't work. So, I'm going to this past Friday, the vaccine passport, the QR code, the app that you use, is no longer valid. It doesn't need to be accepted at any of the restaurants or gyms or theaters or wherever it is.
Charlie Baker put so much effort into this and had it completely dismantled within 2.5 months. Good job, Charlie Baker.
Yeah, well, bad job, good job. Sorry,
I was being sarcastic, but we saw that this was not going to end well and it was not going to be a permanent solution. So why would you waste time and money to put it in? That's just not conservative. Come on.
Well, he's not that conservative. So he's a big government guy. But here's the thing about this. I'm going to bite my tongue for the good of the party and the good of the Commonwealth on a lot of things. But there are lines that I cross. There are lines that I cross for criticism, where I will open my mouth, and you know this, and you do this too, because it's like, well, at what point is what's right, and what's wrong? And yes, the
situation within the Mass GOP is wrong. So we
correct.
Will, of course, voice our opinion. I mean, we could go into a whole other episode on troubles of the Mass GOP because it still keeps.
We've done many, and we'll do many in the future.
But I mean, like with Charlie, it's just like, dude, like you knew that this wasn't going to be a permanent solution. No one was going to permanently do this. I don't know why you spent money on it. Yeah. I'm just saying.
But I'm going to speak up on it. See, the thing is, I will hold my powder on a lot of things because it's like, okay, how important is it? But like this one, showing your papers and digitizing a method to make people, to segregate society is just fundamentally wrong. And if I have to speak up and point that out and call out somebody on my side, I'm going to do so. And I did so. We did so. And then, you can't say, well, I don't support people having to show their papers, to get into a restaurant or, to buy food or work. I don't support that. Well, actually you do, because you're building apparatus to support it. So like, don't build the apparatus to support it if you don't support it. So, so that's gone and good. Thank God. Well, now thank all of you out there. So the mask mandates are gone as of a week from today.
You, everybody,
there were parents
voiced their concerns. We're very glad that this is done. We're very glad that other state governments decided to stop doing the mandates for masking. So finally our governor could, a week later, say that,
not leading from behind.
It was their requirements.
Leading from behind.
Yeah,
it took parents. I was part of the parents group that somebody else started who did a great job. A few people that started it to get masking off in the schools. More and more parents are speaking out.
That they don't have to wear them in church anymore, right?
Right. Archdiocese was leading from behind. Great job. But I saw that the meme out there. You don't thank people for giving you back the freedoms that they never had a right to take away in the first place. Well, yeah, but like sort of we fought for them, right? There wasn't a physical altercation, but people who had enough finally and just want to be left alone to live their lives spoke up, got in the face of, and the digital face, the phone calls, the emails, the protests, all of it combined. More and more people speaking up, showing up at school committee meetings, talking about it with their friends, gathering together. It moved the center of gravity towards lifting a lot of this. So this didn't happen because Michelle Wu or Gavin Newsom or whomever came to an epiphany and saw the light. It happened because the political pressure of the people moved it to be so. And that's a good thing. So all of you all out there, go like this here. Go like this. Good job, America.
So can I say what my favorite meme to come out of the Super Bowl was?
Sure, go ahead.
Remember when Eric Garcetti was like, I hold my breath when I don't have my mask on talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
And he at the Super Bowl was in his Rams jersey talking to his people. And Adam Carolla said, I may be holding my breath, but I breathe out my butt.
I like Adam Carolla a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
I about died.
But yeah, the whole Super Bowl, none of the celebrities and the glitterati were masked. None of the politicians were masked, but the servant class was. Let's stop it. I really want. This is going to leave a taste in people's mouths for a long time to come, and you're still going to get wiped out in the midterms because it's like it was very, very, very clear. One side of the political spectrum was driving this insanity. And you can look, you can listen to
they
all
still
your,
are. They still are.
Just keep listening to your activist friends who are like, well, I'm not taking off my mask.
Biden is not lifting the national emergency yet. He still wears a mask outside in public.
Keep it up. Keep the mask mandate on.
They changed the State of the Union audience rules on the number of people who can be there because of internal polling.
Yeah.
That has to be the reason.
Oh, and I think that I'm not sure what the latest update is, but I think they're requiring masks to be worn. Now, if that happens, every freaking Republican that walks in there better not have a mask on. Period. End of story. Let one side of the aisle just be that. Let them wear their mask. It will be the ultimate visual representation of what people need to do in this country. I agree. Go ahead.
What do we even say to that, Jeff? The thing is all of these state governors, including Democrats, New Jersey was the first to hit this off.
Yeah.
said that kids don't have to wear masks in school. They shouldn't have been wearing them anyway, but like at least they lifted they don't get social cookies for lifting it. This is way past the point of where this should have been allowed. But yeah, like, yes, no more restrictions. We're done with this. We went through the wave. And so,
and if it comes back, you're going to have to do it all over again and just disobey and make them pay at the polls, because I would, you reelect them sometime in December, there will be a new decree, right? Don't reelect these people. Do not do it. And, our second topic is, GOP's chances in 2022, and they're still looking great. There's still a very high likelihood we could, somehow fuck it up, but like that's always on the table, right? We could
hey,
do that.
We didn't fuck it up 2020 with Trump. We almost took back the House.
That's true.
We were real close. And so there is a Democrat, there's a DCC congressional or internal poll that came out that essentially Republicans had a plus 14 on the generic ballot if Democrats did not confront GOP culture war attacks. That kind of says a lot about where our country is and what their messaging is. I think that there's a lot of confusion about if Dems can shrug off a few things like defund the police or some of this like crazy wokeism stuff. And they're not going to be able to, because in people's real lives off Twitter, handling government or handling these liberals in places of power, they see the effects of this. It's not just the news and not just interacting with people online. In your real life, when they keep talking about like crazy ass shit, like, oh, we need a mask and have these vaccine passports and go crazy on it, or they say stuff about wokeism in schools, people are showing up and voting against that. So I don't know how Dems are really going to confront this culture war messaging when they have decided to go so far left. And Biden chose this. He chose to promote this.
They're actively choosing it. And I think what turned in the past couple weeks was probably, I suspect, I think as you do, that Obama behind the scenes was making phone calls and going, what are you doing?
I think that he is absolutely helping the messaging here. And we both know that he is, because he's speaking to congressional Dems right now behind closed doors and saying, get your shit together and act like human beings. Yeah. He said this in 2020 as well. Like, it's not like.
It's weird though. Like they won't listen to him. They won't listen to him because progressivism is a monster of its own.
Well, this is kind of what he built. So it's kind of, you reap what you sow there, man. Like when you decide to come in and be super progressive, socially progressive on a few things, and definitely towards the end of your presidency and from 2014 to 2016, people are going to remember that. And so you reap what you sow here. This is what you created. We have AOC, Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar, all of these Dems, Pramila Jayapal, we have all these solid progressive Dems in because of you, and their viewpoints were allowed because you allowed them. Right. So I'm just saying, and they won't, he is one of the factors here.
And to contrast that with those of us on the right, we openly argue about it, right? Yeah. Sohrab Ahmari and, Tucker Carlson might the no war at any cost type of thing, or like let Putin do whatever he want, leave Europe alone. That mindset, that's openly debated amongst us on the right. Okay, either side has decent points, and we'll continue to debate it. But we debate it. We have that thing. We call out the other side. No, you're wrong here. Well, you're wrong there. They do none of that openly. The only person I could honestly say that I can think that comes to mind is Bill Maher, but he's a comedian with a show. That's it. There's no politicians doing
and this. Joe Rogan is basically a center lefty. Like, that's the thing. Like, he's not on the right. He's on the left. And so he's literally bringing people on that discuss these things, and they do have a discussion. And so, like, the thing is that the left never wants to have that discussion because they only want to talk about power. And so you see, going into our next topic, 3 people on the San Francisco school board get recalled by massive numbers, Jeff. It was Two of them got recalled by 75%. One got recalled by 80%. Do you know how much Donald Trump got the vote share in San Francisco?
I would say, this is the thing, and I mean this. I'm going to guess less than 10%. Less than 10%?
No, it's actually higher.
All right, I can't be out of the teens. Maybe I'll say 15%. 16%. 16%, right. Yeah. So Republicans aren't driving this. This is how bad progressivism is. And the
Alex Collins of the San Francisco School Board, she was the vice president of the San Francisco School Board, that made so many horrific comments on Asian Americans and the fact that they want to have good quality education for their children so they don't get rid of things like merit-based programs.
Well, merit-based programs are white supremacy, Caitlin.
She's doubling down on that, Jeff.
Yeah.
Like after she lost. Like that's the thing. I kind of kept my eye on her Twitter to see what her response would be.
Yeah.
Jeff, she's literally saying that the response to this recall, that 20% support she got, that 80% boot kicking out of the school board was white supremacy.
It's white supremacy. Well,
he says that.
Come on, like, Kate. Hey, would you stop it with that white supremacy? It's white supremacy. I mean, this is a joke.
These people, instead of focusing on learning loss, instead of focusing on real world issues, decided to focus on shit like, I don't know, renaming your school. Abraham Lincoln was too far in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the thing. You will get booted. People are angry. And so when you keep on like being antagonistic towards voters and like basically parents who are like, yeah, my kids, I'm their parent and I have, I don't want to say own them, but they're mine. I'm their guardian. You know, they're going to vote against you. Like, that's the thing that people don't realize now. The parents have all the power. And that's where people need to, especially in school systems and all this other stuff, need to be careful. So,
well, it's a couple things to go back to what we were talking about a minute ago. I sent this over to Blame Big Government, who, you know, his account.
Yeah, he's a good
follow. And he quote tweeted somebody who's with a decent, pretty good, like 50,000 followers. That I was kind of pissed at, because there's this idea that, well, I'm definitely not voting for the Democrats, but I can't just be a part of the Republican Party because, I'm so cool and I'm so edgy and I can never just sully myself as a Republican, but I'll vote Republican because I don't want the Democrats.
Yeah, when you go in that ballot box, you're alone with that permanent marker to mark up your ballot. You're voting Republican, and you know it because this shit is insane.
Yeah.
Let's be perfectly honest here. It has been insane having to wear a mask to go into fucking Starbucks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Insane. It is insane for me to have to pull out my vaccine card to go into Salem and go eat. That is insane, okay? Because we all know that everybody who got vaccinated, I was boosted and got Omicron.
Yeah.
It is insane that, you know, school boards are not listening to parents' concern and yelling at them. I literally watched a video this morning of a concerned parent saying, you know what, I have Facebook pictures because we're Facebook friends of you without your mask on in a crowd, yet you're sitting here saying that my kid needs to wear it. This is in Virginia, of all places, because this is still going on in Virginia, Jeff.
Well, a couple important points on that. There is this mindset that people from the Northeast and I guess, blue state country are moving down south to avoid this stuff. And I think you can, but also this isn't going away across the country. Like they're going to try to like take over Texas and Florida and every state in between and bump the numbers up and get progressives into office. Like, okay, it might last, cost of living's less, you probably get more for your money, yada, 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 weather's better. All right, those are reasons enough if you really want to get out of the blue states. But for politics aside, you're going to have to fight this on a local level. You're going to have to do what was done in the past few months to lift these insane restrictions. But what bothers me the most is like, okay, if you don't want to be associated with the Republican Party, but you just don't want, Democrats are objectively worse, you go in the voting booth and you tick R. That's fine. But don't come out and be like, well, I can't stand Republicans, but I guess I have to vote for them this time around. Just shut up. Like, I'm not playing that game. We're on every single issue, and this goes into my next point that I really want to hit. On every single issue, going back decades, our point of view is vastly superior to that of the other party, period, full stop. And people like Brett Weinstein, who's a frequent guest on Joe Rogan, who still consider themselves liberal. Bill Maher, who still considers themselves liberal. At what point do you go, oh, when William F. Buckley was talking about, yeah, you really don't want nationalized health care and government-sponsored health care, and you really don't want a welfare system because it has levers of power over people, and you really want privatized education, and you really want, and you go down the list of all the policy positions that conservative Republicans warned against for decades. At what point, now that it's come to fruition, where you're seeing the fruits of the progressive project, which is more government control over your life, at what point do you go, oh yeah, maybe I was fucking wrong the whole time? And but does Brett Weinstein, does that dawn on him? Or they're still like, well, no, I think we should have welfare, and no, Medicare for all. No. This is objectively the defining moment that negates your whole political philosophy.
I think. Oh, can I say?
Go ahead. Sorry, I had to rant there because
I think you're justified in that. The thing on the thing on welfare and Medicare for all. Because of the current economic issues that we're having with inflation, we're never getting Medicare for all. I don't think that people understand that. Like the pandemic killed single payer
for 10 years at least. I mean, yeah, but
I would say even longer for 20.
I hope
it's going to take a long time to get out of this shit, Jeff.
I hope it killed it for 20 years. I hope it killed it for 20 years. I do.
I think that you all don't understand. We are never going to be able to afford that system. And so, because you would have to have that system in place when your government is in a good fiscal spot. We're not in a good fiscal spot, and we will never have that system. Yeah. Our government could vote for it. It will crash and burn. And I think that people need to understand that. Also, no one wants government control over their medical decisions nowadays. So, I don't think that single payer is ever going to be on the docket for a while, no matter how much Bernie Sanders cries about it, even though he had a contradictory opinion in the early 90s about it. But I mean, so with like the liberals, the thing about that, Jeff, is that they'll say that in public. Oh, I don't want to vote for ours, but this is getting too ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. In private, they'll say that the Republicans are right.
Yeah, I suppose I just like
the way in private, when they say that the Republicans are right now is good enough for me, because when they say that stuff to me and jump in my DMs to say it, I smirk every time I read it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's a small victory, but like,
I'd rather have the silent majority moving us forward.
Nah, I think, I'd love to run for office again. And when I do, I want to have this open discussion of why it just break down the whole campaign. Every single policy position where Liz Warren is just absolutely bonkers and crazy and wrong.
You mean where she's trying to say that big supermarket is price gouging?
Starbucks and Chipotle. Jesus Christ, these fucking people.
It's so bad. It's so bad because I've had this discussion with people because I have to deal with certain pricing and stuff for things, and we've seen 10% across the board price increases, and this is wholesale price increases. So that means there's going to be markups past that. Jeff, you've probably seen this too, and what you do for work. It's concerning. Like a 15%, 20% price increase, that's a lot. And so that also boosts labor costs. And that's why you're seeing people not have their wage increases match inflation. And so it's a pay cut. That's what it is. But you're blaming big supermarket. They're
pointing to something, and it's just it's such a stupid Democrat talking point that nobody ever challenges in media, that just you see your boomer liberal relative put it on Facebook, then one of the memes of Robert Reich or Elizabeth Warren. Chipotle had record-setting profits this year, or just reported record-setting profits, and so did Starbucks. And be like, okay, and they'll show the increase, right? An increase in 20, 30%, whatever it is. And be like, hey, was anything going on like last year that might have caused a decrease in their profits? That this year, now that it's not going on, they might have had a dramatic increase in profits and the dollar value. Like maybe everything was shut down and nobody went to Chipotle. And this Chipotle had to close a bunch of locations. And maybe people were out of work. So their profits they had no profits last year because of the pandemic. And now they're finally recovering and people are getting back to work at increased prices. And then they're reporting that, and you have the audacity to claim that it's because of greed, because you're lying about the statistics. I viscerally react to that dishonesty. I get pissed off because what that does is dumb people will go, corporate greed. And then they go buy their burrito and they go, corporate greed. They're like, no, government policy, not corporate greed, government policy. And these people just don't get it. They don't get it.
All you have to say to these people is that supermarkets take off 1 to 2% profits off of whatever they're selling. Yeah. That's basically it. That's all they do. The only exception to that rule is Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. Yeah. So you can go complain about Amazon being a vertical monopoly. You can do that, but unless you have someone file a suit against Amazon for that monopoly, you're really trying to kill the lower supermarkets with this type of messaging, which sucks.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. A lot happened this week, but we won. We're declaring victory. But it will come back. You'll have to keep fighting because these people will not rest. You have to vote them out in November. Vote them out in November, or you're asking for trouble. The next few years, they're not going to change their mind. They're going to go back to this. They have to look like they're doing something. They have to be busybodies. Yep. Just vote them out. Vote GOP across the board. It will
be loud about it. Be loud about it. Say, I'm voting Republican for this reason.
Yep. And just vote them out. Vote them out at school board. Vote a county commissioner, wherever you are, wherever you're watching this, Congress. States, your whatever state you're in, the state house you're in, vote for Republicans. Go out and campaign for them. Knock on doors to remind people to what candidate they should get out there and vote for in your town, in your community. Do it. Because if you don't, you'll be left with more of this. And 2 years in, look, Michelle Wu actually woke up because she realized her administration was probably going down the shitter if she didn't change course. Somebody who's, newly reelected into office might not have the same mindset come 2023. So change is afoot. Things are looking good, and Democrats have only themselves to thank. So be normal, and you'll be better. So, all right.
Yep.
Head on over to the Patreon. We did a good episode of What's Going On the Right with Candace Owens and David French, and the debate over Canada and Ukraine and who's a tyrant and who really isn't a tyrant and all that good stuff. Only $1 a month, patreon.com/RINOPod, patreon.com/RINOPod. And until then, we will see you later. Have a great week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Good stuff.